Hello, everybody, and welcome to Throwbacks with the Technodrome, a show where three 80s babies, 90s kids take a trip down memory lane to revisit the pieces of pop culture that formed us and deformed us. I'm Cast.
I'm Scales.
And I'm Duff. And we are the Technodrome.
What's going on, guys? Excited to be here to do our first show. How's everybody doing?
Good. Pumped up. Excited.
Doing good. Let's do this.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a little bit. We just wanted to start a podcast where we have conversations with each other and have a little bit of fun and hope that other people watch and have fun with us. And you might be wondering why we're called the Technodrome. And if you weren't, I don't really care. I'm going to tell you anyway. The three of us have been good friends since college. We all lived together during college. Our senior year, we lived together in a 7-man townhouse, and we lived in a triple. And the summer before senior year, it was 2006, and I watched an Angry Video Game Nerd video. It was the first one I'd seen. My friend Carmine showed me the video, and it was him reviewing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NES game, which I remembered from when I was a kid, the first one, and it's ridiculously hard. And
Possible.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Well, not impossible, because we'll get into that. But
yeah, not impossible, but up until that point, as far as I was concerned, it was impossible. I didn't know anybody who beat it. I didn't know anybody who got past the level after the dam level. Everybody thinks that the dam level is the hardest in the game, but it's not. But I digress. So I watched this video. I watched the Angry Video Game Nerd, and that became a lifelong love. I introduced the nerd to everybody when I got back to college, and it's been a thing now in our house and among our friends for 15 years. Great stuff. Yep. But then I also watched a speed run on YouTube of, I was wondering, has anybody ever beaten this game? And I saw that apparently it's possible. So I decided that year, senior year, I wanted to make it my business to beat this game. I was going to keep playing it till I got good at it, which took a long time. I played it a lot, and it kind of caught on in our triple among the three of us. So the three of us would take turns playing. There's only one player, and I know Joe played it a lot too.
Too much.
Yeah, way too much. And we'll talk about what too much means a little later. But because we played this game so much, and because we grew up liking Turtles, our room became known as the Technodrome. Each of our rooms in the house had a nickname. Ours was the Technodrome, and it just stuck because it's 15 years later. That's
ours was a better name.
Yeah, our group text name.
Shout out to the dog pound and the loony bin.
Yes. the other two. No, I don't know if YouTube broadcasts on Nebular, but
no.
They'll be there in a few years.
We shall soon find out. But we figured, since our name collectively is the Technodrome, then it would make sense for the first episode of our show to be about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, if you were born anytime during the early to mid 80s, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was everywhere. It was on your radar. It was basically like you were born into a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe. And most kids, I would say, don't have a specific recollection of the first time they saw Turtles, because it was on. It was a cartoon. It was everywhere. I happen to remember distinctly the first time I ever saw Ninja Turtles. So take a little trip with me. Picture September 1989. I'm going into my first day in pre-K, going to a new school, St. Anselm in Brooklyn. And my parents walk me into the classroom, and I see a bunch of kids playing. There's a lot of toys out. There's blocks, there's dinosaurs. This seems great. So I walk in, go sit down at a table, and I bring some building blocks to the table, and I'm playing. And there's a kid sitting across from me. And before I know it, this miniature Frank Costanza, who I apparently must have grabbed the same block he was going for and didn't realize it, runs around to my side of the table, and I continue playing. And the next thing I knew, I was on the floor crying because he punched me in the face. So as he rained blows upon me, yes, thank you. As he rained blows upon me, he figured there had to be a better way. So my parents were still with me at that point because this is introduction to preschool. And, we picked me up. And after I stopped crying profusely, dusting myself off, we decided maybe it'd be better to go play with another child who wasn't a budding sociopath. So make my way across the room and go over to a large set of building blocks. And there's a kid there with some nervous energy, very friendly and outgoing. He says, "Hi, my name's Charlie. Do you want to play?" And I said, "Yeah." Introduced myself, and Charlie is still 32 years later my best friend. So we became really tight, and he was always my go-to when we were at school. And then finally, we want to hang out outside of school. So went to his house for the first time. Our parents arranged for a play date, and we got along, perfectly. Great time. Played inside, played outside. We were both only children, very friendly, not too selfish. I mean, I happened to come with my own jar of peanut butter because it was the only thing I would eat, but not spoiled, not too bad. So we're playing, having a great time. And then it came time for me to watch my favorite cartoon, which obviously was the real Ghostbusters. And I couldn't understand, but Charlie didn't want to watch the real Ghostbusters because he wanted to watch this show. It was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, even the title sounds ridiculous. And I wasn't having it, and neither was he. So we're having a knockdown, drag out verbal argument for, it felt like hours, but I'm sure it was, 10 minutes, but neither of us would budge because I wasn't going to miss Ghostbusters and he wasn't going to miss Turtles. So
it didn't lead to another punch in the head, did it?
No, it wasn't another punch in the head. This is a
good.
different, far more sane person
Yeah.
that we were working with.
Right.
But his dad went upstairs, got a second TV from upstairs in the house, and brought it down to the living room where there was obviously only one TV. So now we had two TVs set up in the living room on opposite sides, and each of us was going to watch his own show.
How loaded were they?
Not loaded. I mean, it wasn't like they pulled out, a 60-inch TV or, like a projector. So we're both watching our shows on the other sides of the living room, and I'm sitting there, I'm watching Ghostbusters and I'm fully into it. But every now and then I peek over and look, what's going on that TV? And then a little more often I peek, like, that looks pretty good. So watching my show and then kind of just shifting over. And then midway through, both of us were watching the other one's TV. So I still loved Ghostbusters, but I ended up loving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he ended up loving Ghostbusters. So I don't remember how I handled it after that, what show I would watch, because they're on at the same time. But that was when Turtles first came on my radar, and it was inescapable because, again, this is 1989. I think this is when the toys came out. This was when everything was really starting to peak, because the show started in 87. But, at that point, I speak for all of us, we were all a little too young to really have it register. But then it was Turtle fever. Turtles were everywhere. So in Scales, what do you remember about Ninja Turtles from when you were a kid?
So I don't have a great first memory like you. I tried to recall my earliest memories. I mean, I remember sitting and watching the cartoon in my living room. I remember having the lunchbox for my first day at kindergarten. I was super excited about, to show all these other kids how cool I was, because I had that.
Cool little thermos in there, probably.
Yeah,
too.
with the thermos and everything. Yeah, of course.
It was like a rite of passage. Like, you weren't cool unless you had something Turtles related.
That's exactly right. And then my uncle that lived next door, my Uncle Sammy, was also my godfather. He did a lot of woodwork he had like a little shed in the back. He always would make these cool little wooden things to hang up in his house or to give to us. And I don't remember how old I was, but it was probably right around 89, 90, somewhere around there. He carved these, I wish I still had them. He carved the turtle heads like in the cartoon shape with the bandana off to the side, and my Aunt Lois, I think, painted them all with the colors of all 4 turtles. And I was in a bunk bed. You know, Tony, my brother, was on the bottom and I was on the top. And I hung up my father probably hung up these 4 turtle heads right on the side of my top bunk bed. And it was probably a sense of safety. The turtles were there watching me, but it was just, yeah, I wish I still had them to this day. Just something that I always look back fondly upon.
That's awesome. What happened to them?
Who knows? I mean, they probably got put in a box
tag
at some
sale?
point, and then got put in a tag sale, or same thing with all my other turtle toys and everything else. Who knows?
I'm gonna have to ask Tony.
Into the abyss. Yeah, Tony probably knows. How about you, Duff? Do you have any, or I say, what's your earliest memory or memories that you have?
Again, kind of like you, don't really have any specific memory of when I just started watching the cartoons or anything, but I just kind of remember like one day I was watching it, one day I wasn't. So I was like, I don't know. I do have a specific memory of, I don't know where it was, but it might have been at like, Pizza Hut or Burger King or something. They were having one of those promotions where, you can buy, like back in the day, you could like buy VHS tapes of like, sometimes they would have things come out like, and I remember this specific one was for, the Turtles cartoons. And there were 2 episodes on it.
FHE.
One of them, what's that?
FHE were those videos.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
There's like that kid printing.
Yep, drawing that thing on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a specific, it was one of the ones, the generation, Dimension X, sorry. It's one of the ones where the those young teenagers come through the portal and whatever, they're floating around on their car. And I just have a specific memory of just seeing that episode so many times because I would wear the VHS tape out. And then like, yeah, the rest is kind of history. And I just remember kind of like around the same time as like 1990 or so. And I have the proof here. I can show you my sweet birthday party.
Yes. there he is.
Look at that face.
Look at those party hats.
Those stud.
Those like those turtle party hats behind me.
And
it was a pretty sweet setup.
I'm staring into the background. Are those little turtles balloons in the back too?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Little turtle balloons.
Nice.
A little Coca-Cola Classic right there, and a sweet little table display there.
Back in the day when they had to reassure everybody, no, it's Coke Classic. It's not new Coke.
Of course. But yeah, and I mean, kind of took off from there. I mean, the cartoons turned into the movies, turned into, the video games when I got, a little older to know what the heck, what buttons are what. And, eventually into the toys and everything. And I just got, completely sucked into the turtle world. And, even to this day, I kind of look back at it and, kind of like, get nostalgic for how excited I was when, there was either a new movie coming out or a new toy or, just like so excited that, they were just such a big part of my, childhood. But yeah, that's kind of how I was thrown into the mix.
It was something to get amped up about every time you watch it. I mean, I feel like it was on every day, because at that point they were doing reruns. Yeah. It's an action-packed show. There's one-liners, there's jokes being made constantly. Like they're corny now, but back then
I didn't understand them back then. But now you look at them and you're like,
Speaking of which, the episode that you're talking about with the neutrinos, like where they come.
Yes, the neutrinos. Yes.
I remember in high school, I still had a VHS. Because it's pretty standard practice when we were kids. We would rent a video from the video store and then pirate it and
be kind and rewind.
Onto be kind and rewind. But we'd make a copy on a blank VHS and have 4 different movies, TV shows, or whatever, one after the other. I remember in high school, I was looking at one of these blank, one of these cobbled together VHSs, and it was a Turtles thing, and it was that episode with the neutrinos. And I was watching it, and the Turtles jump into the car and try to commandeer it. And when one of them grabs the guy who's driving the car, the neutrino goes, he's like, "Let me go, you pube." Did he really just say that? And again, bootleg VHS. I was like, let me rewind that and watch again. I was like, is he really saying pube? Was it supposed to be cube? But what is it? And I just watched it on YouTube, and the video is clear as day. He definitely says, "Let me go, you pube." I don't really know how that passed
They had different slangs in Dimension X, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess so.
They had different standards in the mid '80s.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Big time.
That wouldn't fly now.
No, I wouldn't have made it to cut.
Nope.
Not at all. Yeah, I was shocked at that. But building off what you said, how there was so much excitement about the show, I feel like it really culminated when we found out that they were releasing a live action movie. No one really knew what the Turtles were going to look like, what were they going to sound like, how are they going to take this, world that's very squarely rooted in a cartoon and bring it into real life. And then when we went to go see it, it was just awesome. It was like the greatest thing we'd ever seen by that point. And that first movie still holds up well. I think they did it perfectly. It was the best that it could have been done. Because they took the humor and silliness of the cartoon, but the movie was darker and grittier. And as kids, we didn't really understand why, but we just kind of accepted it. And now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, I had no idea that there were Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics.
No.
And I didn't find out until college that the whole premise of the series is rooted in comics, that's what first came out. And the comics were much darker and grittier than the cartoons were. The cartoons were very silly, but the comics were meant to be this. I'm having a little. Do you have my AirPods?
Yeah.
It just synced to my computer.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. It's okay. Sorry, my audio just.
Krang is trying to hack into our podcast.
From Dimension X.
My AirPods synced to be the sound. Turn off my Bluetooth. Sorry about that. We could edit that out. It's okay. I just turned Bluetooth off. So, okay. Yeah. So I was talking about the comics and how dark they are. And if you just look at the origin story of the Turtles from the comics and the movie and the cartoon, it's different in each. So the cartoon it's still kind of blows my mind what it is supposed to be exactly. It's like, it's such a contrivance and such a like forcing something to make sense. That there's an ooze that if you touch it, you turn into whatever animal you most recently touched.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's how things behave in the real world for sure.
Of course.
The confusing thing too to me is that the Turtles become human-like because they touched Hamato Yoshi, but he touched them, so why doesn't he become turtle-like? He just was playing with the rats. And I think it's because I think they get around that. I just watched the episode, like he steps into the ooze before he touches them, so I guess he technically touched them.
My mistake.
I never understood that fully, because I always thought it had something to do with the boy that was carrying the bowl with the turtles in it when it fell into the sewer. Is that not?
No, that's just how they got into the sewer.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, that's how they just fell down there.
How they got into the sewer.
Okay.
But in the cartoons, Yoshi notices them playing in the ooze and goes to pick them up to clean them off. But when he touches them, it makes it that the animal that they most recently touched was a human. But I guess he had just been, playing and taking care of the rats, so he stepped into the ooze. It's a thin line there,
Do you know that? So what's the difference with the comic?
So the comic is that, and it's close to the movie. The comic is the most extreme version of it. And the movie's just kind of a watered down version of that. So in both, Yoshi the Master is a human, but Splinter is already his pet rat, and the pet rat watches. Yoshi is a ninjutsu master part of the Foot Clan, which at the time was honorable.
Yep.
And Splinter, when his master's practicing at home, mirrors his movements from his cage. So he's learning ninjutsu, as a rat. And then Yoshi is murdered by Oroku Saki, I believe, over a love rival. And in the movie, Splinter scratches Saki's face, which is why Saki covers his face and becomes a shredder.
Right.
I don't know how Splinter ends up in America. He might have been there already, but I mean, bottom line is once Splinter goes into the sewers, and when he touches the mutagen, what the mutagen does is makes people more human-like, which makes more sense than, I mean, as much as something can make sense, but like you have this ooze that humanizes something as opposed to like that last animal you touched now.
Yeah.
But in the comic, it's more fleshed out, and it's a lot more violent. There's originally Yoshi and Oroku Saki's brother, I think Oroku Naji, were in the same dojo, and I think they had to fight over the love rival. And then they have a battle where Yoshi kills Naji, and then to exact revenge, Oroku Saki, who's Naji's brother, kills Yoshi's, I guess, fiance or wife or whatever it was. And then Yoshi comes to America, and it gets killed there. It's a whole violent thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty interesting. I haven't read the comic itself. I plan to because it seems pretty cool. But,
yeah, we got to get that. I want to get that compendium, the issues and everything.
Yeah, but so the movie.
Santa.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the movie does a good job of combining those two worlds. But going back now, I still think the movie is good. I mean, I enjoy it. I'll watch it from time to time. Do you guys remember going to see the movie in the theater?
I do. And I had a different experience with that where, now looking at the first one, obviously, like I can understand the reasoning behind why it was a little darker and the tone was a little different. But going and seeing it in the movies, I was a little bit kind of like, taken back because it was like, this isn't what I was kind of expecting. I was expecting a little bit more like the goofiness from the cartoon that I was used to. And so that's why it kind of, got me by surprise a little bit. It's not that I didn't like it. I was just kind of surprised. And I remember, asking, my mom and dad, like, because they came with me and it was one of the few things they didn't mind watching. They actually said, they never minded going to any of the turtle movies with me or because, they enjoyed it. But I just remember it just not really kind of coming to what I thought it would be. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was definitely.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I said it was definitely a curveball.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say the Turtles movie, as far as my memory serves me, was the first movie I saw in the theater ever. So that's always pretty cool. To have
Did you get popcorn? Do you remember?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm sure there was popcorn and Coca-Cola Classic and Twizzlers. Yeah, of course. But yeah, I'm in the same boat basically as you guys and Duff. I think that probably it was a little bit of a curveball because it was a little bit different than what we were used to with the cartoon. Looking back at it now, it's phenomenal. I think like when you look at a movie like that and how they brought, a comic book and cartoon onto the big screen, and this was obviously kind of before CGI and all that kind of computer animated graphics, and it was still awesome. Like, I wish there was more of that these days. Like, I don't know if I'm not going to dive down to this rabbit hole, but like the turtle movies that have come out in recent years, like they're cool, but it's just too much CGI. Like, give me the real, give me the guys in the costumes. It just feels more real.
Give me Corey Feldman's voice.
Yeah, give me Corey Feldman's voice specifically.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, I definitely prefer something like that, with practical effects and costumes and whatnot compared to CGI because it's totally overdone.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they released something where it was all costumes and whatnot, it would look dated to a lot of people. I don't think it would. Like, I wouldn't take away from my enjoyment, but especially for kids who have been brought up on CGI almost exclusively, it it would almost look too quaint, I feel like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're probably right.
I wonder how it translates for kids who have grown up on the newer Ninja Turtle series if they go back and watch the movie or the old cartoon.
So I know that my nephews, Jaden and Anthony, when they were little, like probably when Jaden was, I don't even know, 6, 7, and then when Anthony was growing up, I bought them the old school cartoon Turtles, and they loved it. And at the time, I'm pretty sure, like the Nickelodeon version, the newer one was on, like this, like maybe early 2000s or mid 2000s or so. But they still have the DVDs of the Turtles. And Anthony was like still watching one a few weeks ago, and he's like 12 now,
nice.
so they still get a kick out of them. And I know they both still like the original movie a lot too. So I think it holds up. You know, if you share the stuff with kids that are growing up now, I think they can still see that it's the older stuff is pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome. I like that they appreciate it.
Yeah.
So speaking of, we watched some episodes just to refamiliarize ourselves with the cartoon. What are some of your impressions of the show now that you went back and watched? Like, did it bring up any feelings from when you were a kid? What do you think of it if you're to assess it now? What do you guys think? Joe?
I mean, it was still enjoyable. Like, I could definitely understand why I liked it. The personalities in the Turtles. Like, I don't know about I was a big Michelangelo fan. Mikey was my dude, as I think probably majority of people felt that way.
Let's take a quick poll then. Favorite turtle? So yours is Michelangelo. Scales.
Yes.
What about you?
Leonardo was my favorite.
Okay, and I was a Donatello fan, and I do think that part of that is it mirrors part of your personality. Like,
yeah,
I've always been.
I agree. And that's why none of us are a douche, because none of us pick Raphael.
Exactly. I lost a sigh. Shut up, you baby.
But yeah, like I don't know, the cartoon. It was a little. Obviously, I was so young, I didn't understand some of the puns and the jokes that they were making in there, but a few of them kind of caught my ear a little bit, where I'm like, ouch, that was a bad one. That's almost like
How
bad territory.
dare you, sir? It is a highbrow, sophisticated form of humor. One of a situ.
I don't know about that, but yeah, why don't you try getting caught in a donut and get back to me. I don't know. But it was, again, watching it, I understood, I know why I liked it. And it's just, it still kind of brought those same feelings back a little bit, and it was like, so nostalgic for me to sit there and watch it. And I don't know. And you forget about some of the characters. And I mean, there were a few characters that might have been a little crappy, if, I can use that language here. One in particular named Krang. Pretty crappy, but and I know you do a pretty good impression there, but
yeah, every now and then I get a good one off, but it's like yeah, he's just like he's
whiny.
He is, and he's voiced so, that's one thing. The voice acting on the show is fantastic, because a character like that is annoying because he's supposed to be annoying. Like, you never say like, oh, this voice actor sucks, and like all the little things that the guy who played him did are so good. But yeah, he's like a little gnat. He's just right in your ear. The shredder. Why haven't you completed my bottle? And then you got Uncle Phil from
Prince.
Should have.
R.I.P.
Tonight I dine on turtle soup. But it's funny too, as you get older, you can kind of realize, you can kind of pick out what voice actor does the different roles on the show, because you could hear, the common thread. In them. Like Krang and Baxter Stockman sound fairly similar. They're different personalities, but you hear it. You can kind of hear that Leonardo and Rocksteady are the same. The one that blew my mind that I looked up on IMDb and Wikipedia is that Barry Gordon, who does Donatello, is also Bebop. They don't sound anything.
Wouldn't have known that.
That's cool.
And it's funny because Donatello is like a little bit in the Woody Allen vein, now that I am older.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor man's Woody Allen.
Yeah.
another voice tidbit back to the movie. I didn't know this. So the guy who voiced Splinter in in I think all 3 movies, his name was Kevin Clash, and he was the voice of Elmo.
Elmo, yeah, I didn't
Sesame
know.
Street.
I didn't know Splinter.
It's crazy. Yeah, I had no idea. I never would have guessed that.
There's 2 totally different voices.
Yeah, apparently, I mean, he was like good friends with Jim Henson, and I don't think maybe I knew at one point that Jim Henson Studios was big with building the turtle costumes.
Yeah, well, that's why they're so good. That's why they're so good. At least in the movie, yeah. And it was a big production to do.
Right.
No clue Kevin Clash was Splinter. That's great.
That's crazy. Elmo.
Elmo.
And you guys are somewhat familiar with the Police Academy movies, right?
Oh yeah.
I think I have a clue of what you're talking about. Yeah.
But so Police Academy 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Japanese recruit, the one who's like a total character.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He's the voice of Leonardo in the movie.
Yeah, I looked that up too. He's in Revenge of the Nerds too, right?
Yeah, he is. You're right.
The same guy.
Is he?
I'm pretty sure. At least IMDb said so because I looked that one up too.
That's he's in that one as well. Yep. You're right.
Yeah. So a lot of classic 80s guys in there.
Scales, what did you think about the cartoons going back and watching them?
It was so nostalgic. Like the one that we watched for all our viewers out there was the Pizza Monsters. Do you remember the exact name of the episode?
Attack of the Killer Pizzas.
Attack of the Killer Pizzas. Yeah. So and we'll get into the video games later, but these Pizza Monsters, like from the video games and from this TV episode, from this episode of the show, like always left a lasting impression on me. I think because they resembled like Alien from the movie Alien a lot.
Like little versions.
They did kind of look like little versions of it.
Yeah, they were scary. So going back and watching this was like, I tried to get back into my like 6-year-old self. Was like, oh wow, this is awesome. And then of course, I'd forgotten about Vernon, who is April O'Neil's, part of the news team. I think he's the cameraman, but half the time he was so scared of what was going on. April had
always so scared about what's going on. April.
Yeah, he's pretty crappy himself. He's up there with Krang.
And what the hell kind of name is Burn?
That's the sound he deserves right there.
Yeah.
What hell kind of a name is Burn for the boss, for April's boss? You have Burn and Burn. It sounds like the exact thing to me. Burn, Vern, and Irma. Like, hey, Burn,
Irma. Yeah, her friend.
Yeah, can't forget about Irma.
She's a character I totally forgot about, and
me too.
It's actually pretty funny.
What was that? There was that one thing that we were talking about. It was like that one comment she made was like, "Oh, is this Monster number 2, or is this the Return of the Monster?" Was that
Monster 2, the sequel?
Yeah, I was like, really?
One of the jokes that was in that episode. I don't remember who said it. It might have been Michelangelo. It was probably Michelangelo. About
most likely.
Yeah. Oh, was this a BYOM? Like, what's BYOM? Bring your own monster.
Hey, it went over good with our 6-year-old selves.
Yeah.
I guarantee I probably laughed at that when I was a kid too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, probably. Well, I mean, Scales got to go left. What are you out of your gourd?
Yeah, I used to say that like as a kid, but maybe that's where it came from. I
I bet it is.
I've heard you say that many times in the past 20 years.
Must have just stuck with me.
My experience going back and watching it is interesting because watching it at first, my inclination was, this is bad. You have instances where the turtles are wearing the wrong color bandana or the wrong voice actor. Like it's not paired out right. Like the animation has some glitches. Some of the bad guys are inept. The jokes are bad. But then the more I watched it and I, thawed out a little bit, I had so much fun rewatching it. I loved the show. And I remembered just how much I loved it growing up. And it just, I had a good feeling all over again. I stopped being so critical of it and just watched it for the enjoyment and, to have a low expectation about the jokes and, that it's, put myself in the shoes of a kid. It's great. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of fighting, and these are things that kids love. It's things that kids are kind of sheltered from now in a lot of ways in their shows. But for us, it was great. Like we wanted action figures. Like we wanted shows that had action in it.
We didn't even talk about the intro song, like how classic and awesome. Like you
Oh,
can sing
yeah.
along with it. It's easy to learn. Like not that many words, pretty easy, and like the
It
song
would get me
music
pumped
is
up
great.
when I would hear it.
Yeah.
So good.
It's great. I mean, I play music. I write music. I've definitely numerous times boarded on some kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle theme. Like I'm writing something. No, actually, that sounds a little bit like Turtles. Like
Nice.
But I'm going to have to be the contrarian for a minute here. And Michelangelo was never my favorite turtle when I was a kid, but he annoys the hell out of me.
Just don't understand him.
So like every joke, like every 5 seconds is made, and it always ends with something about pizza.
And you know what? He's not wrong, because pizza is pretty amazing.
Pizza is amazing.
He's got a point.
Pizza is amazing. But
he wasn't wrong
every joke. And if it's not about pizza, it's about anchovies, or he's saying Cowabunga. There's even references in episodes to like more pizza jokes. Really, Michael?
That's a good segue to all their mottos and sayings and all their little one-liners, like how those kind of hit into pop culture and never went away.
You know, why random like 4 and 5 year old kids were talking like surfers who had never been to California, never seen a surfboard. I definitely said tubular, radical, mondo, Cowabunga, said all those things growing up.
Gnarly.
Gnarly, another good one. Yeah. No explanation why they talk that way, because I don't know that most teenagers talk that way.
Yeah, a little stereotyping there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. So we talked about the first movie. The second movie was huge too. And just a word about the first movie. I remember going to see it in the theater too, also with Charlie and my mom. My mom took us. We're thrilled after school. Went to go see it, and just kind of accepted this darker movie. It's like, okay, this is what it is. Like, this was really cool. It's like when you're a kid, you had a different experience with it, Joe. You were disappointed by how dark it is, but I feel like when you're a kid, you kind of compartmentalize things. It's like, oh, well, this is what they're like in the cartoon. Okay, this is what they're like in real life. This is what they're like here. That's at least how it was for me. So I thought it was really cool. And I remember going back to the car, Charlie and I were like Chip and Dale in the cartoons, like the Donald Duck cartoons, before they started talking. We're just like, it's like you remember the part where they like tried to do like some crazy karate move? No, it was really cool. Yeah, you remember that part? Like just going like throwing spin kicks and jumping around, jumping off walls on the way of the car. And just like it was like we were like overwhelmed wind-up toys. It was like the coolest thing that ever happened to our 4 or 5 year old selves.
Yeah, just picture you going back to your house and just running through the door doing this.
But then the second movie came out, and that was definitely toned down more. It wasn't nearly as dark. It was a lot sillier, but it was still great and is entertaining. Like it's a movie that I feel like I can still go back and enjoy, but it's a little bit more of the curmudgeonly way that I approach the cartoon. Was like, the jokes come. It's like, all right. I like that as a kid. I don't know how great it is now. But the movie still gets a passing grade easily. If the first movie's an A+ to me, not on like the Citizen Kane, Godfather scale of
for what it was,
but like as far as enjoyment goes, if the first movie is where I enjoyed that much, the second movie's B+. It's there. It's more cartoon than comic.
Got to give it a higher grade than that for the amazing artist that was in that of our time. Just
Go ninja, go. Yeah, and that was the jam. That was awesome. Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer. You liked them both back in the day.
Oh yeah.
But Joe, I'm curious what you thought of the second movie when you saw it as a kid. Did that scratch the itch a little more because it wasn't as like oppressive and dark?
Without a doubt, absolutely. The second one I just have like more like fond memories of as a kid, just like going to see it and just I don't know. That is my idea of what the Turtles should have been. Looking back at it now, I can understand the differences between the first and the second one, and I can appreciate them a lot more now. That's why, I give the first movie a lot more credit now than I did back then. But yeah, the second one is exactly what I was thinking, kind of goofy, just like the cartoons. They had, still waiting on Bebop and Rocksteady, unfortunately. Was it Tokar and Razor in
Yeah,
the
what a
second
fail.
one? Which I just never understood why they didn't put them in there. But
What
Nobody.
was that? What?
Yeah,
Why?
what was the reason? There's got to be a reason.
I have no
like,
idea.
Yeah.
I was
why
very
would they
upset
not
because I
do
remember
it?
going into that thinking, all right, this is going to be it. They're going to be in it, and
Yeah.
it's going to be great.
Yeah.
No.
No. First of all,
So
I'm still terrified of Razor.
they were terrifying.
Yeah.
And even with
Badass.
Super Shredder at the end, he was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. Kevin Nash, not
Kevin
Kevin
Nash.
Clash.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash.
Big sexy, big daddy cool.
Yeah. I liked Toka as a kid. I didn't really like Razor, not just because I was pants crappingly afraid of him, but because Toka was cool. I thought he talked a little bit.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be comic relief because they're babies.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The no Bebop and Rocksteady thing. What is that?
I mean, I
That's
feel
still,
like
it blew my mind.
yeah, if they were in there, how much better would we regard the sequel? Maybe it'd be on par with the first one if those guys were in there.
Right, because they're not just a plot device. You could give them lines as opposed to like, oh, these are other mutants. Like, okay,
Right.
Sure.
Right. And we all had the action figure. I mean, I remember I definitely had the Rocksteady action figure. So there was kids out there that, even though they hated these villains, I mean, we cared about them in some sense because we wanted the turtles to beat them up, right? So there was
Of course.
something there. So it's like, why didn't you give them to us?
yeah. I don't know.
Never get it.
Just a random aside. I don't know how long it took for me to straighten this out, but I thought that Bebop was Rocksteady and Rocksteady was Bebop.
Really?
And I liked one of them better than the other. I don't remember which. I think I liked Rocksteady. I think I liked the Rhino, who is Rocksteady, I know, better, but I must have liked Bebop's name better. And I insisted that each was called the other. And refused to admit I was wrong about it. I have no idea. It makes zero sense. And I don't know how long that went on for. But,
I remember, another aside here, if we're just kind of going into that, I remember I gave my parents such a hard time because I wanted the Bebop action figure, like the toy, and they, for the life of them, could not find it. It was just like you could find Rocksteady all over the place. Every other character, for whatever reason, Bebop was just an extremely hard one to find. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had Bebop. No.
Yeah, Bebop was so hard to find, but then I remember it was just like a random day. It wasn't even a holiday. It wasn't anything special. I just remember my mom coming home and her eyes were like so wide, and she's like, "I finally got it!" And she pulls it out of the bag, and I'm like, "Yeah, it was like one of the greatest things ever." And I played with it for like 5 minutes, and because it's like, I gotta have my Ninja Turtles over here, but
yeah. Well, in those pre-internet, especially pre-Amazon days, that was a huge accomplishment. I had one of those toys too. I don't know what made me really want this toy, but I heard the character Fugitoid, and I decided that was really cool, and I wanted that figure. And I even asked my mom about this recently. She doesn't remember it at all, but I remember she had to search high and low. This was like, you had to call different stores, go to different stores. And I grew up in Brooklyn, so it was like you were going to check Brooklyn, you're going to check Manhattan.
Is Brooklyn in Long Island?
It is not.
Okay, just checking.
But yeah, I don't know if it was for a birthday or for Christmas, but lo and behold, Mom found it and I got it. But it was, you had to go on a quest to find these things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just now, like, even if it's out of stock on Amazon, it's like, okay, fine, you order it, and when it's in stock, it'll get shipped to you and it'll get shipped quickly. But
exactly,
this was, like a huge thing back then.
Did either of you have I know we're kind of divulging into the toys section here. Did either of you have the Krang with the body? I never did. I probably really wanted it, but I never had that as a kid.
I never did.
No. Did you have it?
I never had it. I just have a picture where I put Duff's head inside Krang's body.
Yeah.
We'll have to share that on our social media.
A picture from my famous picture from sophomore year of college, where I don't know the picture they took. I don't know if I wasn't ready for the picture. I was a little put it nicely, a little unkempt back then. Let my hair grow a little bit.
That was a shock coming back sophomore year.
Yeah. Yeah. But needless to say, yeah, it was a very interesting picture, and it was placed inside of the body, and I became Krang essentially.
Good off Microsoft Paint.
Yeah.
On my
clip art
laptop.
Did wonders back then.
But then, you say you were unkempt and you weren't ready for the picture, but then we have you were making the same exact face a few years later in that other picture, which now we're also going to have to put up on the social media.
Which other picture is that? I'm trying to think.
I don't know if it was from the day that we left college, but
yeah.
Remember I did that side by side. You're making the same exact facial.
Oh, okay. Yes. I know which one you're talking about now.
So it's been all fun and games so far, but let's talk about the decline and downfall of the Turtles. And I'd have to say, I could probably speak for all of us, it was the third movie.
Yep. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
So it came out in '93, and when it came out, I would have not been 8 yet. And as a 7-year-old child, I knew I just watched a piece of crap. I knew it just, you go into these movies amped up and you're expecting to have the time of your life watching it. I remember watching it then. It just felt like a chore, and it wasn't because I'd outgrown the Turtles yet. It was just because the movie was boring. I can't even tell you what it's about because I haven't seen it in 28 years.
I'm right there with you.
The only thing I remember about the movie, or the only scene I remember, is that the Turtles go back in time to ancient Japan, and some Japanese guys come back, I think, in their place, and they're hanging out with Casey Jones, who's making them watch hockey. And at some point, because they're watching so much hockey and used to seeing fights, they all start fighting. I remember that being really funny. If I watched it now, I'd probably still laugh at it. I have no idea what the scene's about, but just knowing I thought it was so funny then, I'd probably still crack up at it now. But other than that, I just remember being really deflated as that wasn't good. And then I think it just took the wind out of my sails for Turtles. I still had figures, but I don't know how much I watched the show after that, because I don't really have much memories of anything Turtles related from then until I tried to rediscover a little bit later on. Did you guys see the movie in the theater?
I don't.
That one,
so.
yes, I did. I know I did with that one, yeah.
Nice.
I remember going to the theater for that one again, with my parents again, because again, they didn't mind going to see these things, and
they minded that one.
That's for a refund.
I kind of remember walking out of it and just kind of being a little disappointed, because it just wasn't up to par of what I was used to, and I was like, yeah, they could probably tell that I wasn't as happy about it, but yeah, you build these things, like I was saying before, you build these things up so high, this was on such a high pedestal, and you have a movie that comes out, and it's just I don't know, it just kind of I wouldn't say it ruined it, because there was other things that I was still doing with the Turtles, with toys and video games and all that, but yeah, that kind of started maybe that downward trend, I guess. And you said I was at 8 at the time then, so probably still a few years left in the tank for the prime time of the Turtles, but yeah,
it was a pretty steep decline, though, I'd have to say. It's from that point on, it's kind of like when you're watching The Sandlot and all the kids start disappearing towards the end of it. That's what it felt like for Turtles. And What about you, Skip?
So I looked up the how they did in the box office, all 3 movies, because I was curious to see if the decline lined up with how we felt, and it's pretty blatant. So the first movie had a $13 million budget, and they made $202 million at the box office, which is phenomenal for 1990, right? The sequel they had a $25 million budget and did $132 million at the box office, so still pretty good, right? The third one, $21 million budget, and they only made $54 million at the box office. So, interest was maybe, yeah, there you go. Interest was waning. The movie not being that great didn't help their cause. So,
Are you sure that it was made on 21 million, not 21,000?
I mean, I don't know where they spent the money. But actually, to be honest, I went back and watched like the ending of the movie on YouTube. Like there was like a 2-minute clip on there because I couldn't remember how exactly it ended. And you remember there's like that lantern that was like the time that what helped them travel in time. It's like lantern that you could hold.
I don't even remember that.
And at the end, so there's like this villain, and when they're in Japan, but he's an American, but I don't remember how he got there. But this guy is the villain, and he has the lantern, and the turtles are like, we need that lantern to get back to where we belong. And he's got this lantern, and he's like, they're on like a boat or something, and he's like, you're never getting back, and he throws this thing, and Michelangelo ends up like leaning over, like show his feet like getting off the edge, and he grabs it, and they get back. But it's like, why didn't the guy just slam it and break it? It was like a glass thing. Like it didn't make sense. And then some other guy like they shoot a catapult at the villain, and it blasts him, and he goes, and it's like the worst green screen ever of like he's like falling through the clouds, and it looks so crappy. You gotta watch it.
It looks like our backgrounds.
Yeah, basically.
It's worse. That's where they spent the $21 million.
So just off the top of your head, favorite moments from any of the movies or even from the cartoon?
From the movie, my least favorite is anything with Casey Jones.
So yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Why do you hate him so much?
So I don't know what it is.
He's a great actor. The actor Elias Koteas. He's in a lot of stuff. He's great. But
yeah, isn't he in a lot of
is he in Law and Order?
And it's so funny that he had like long hair in the movie. So I'm sure it's a wig, and he's like balder than I.
I don't know what it like. I just felt like he was kind of douchey. Like, and maybe deep down, I wanted Raphael to get with April O'Neil, which is probably kind of weird. Like, what are they gonna like turtle human babies? Like, why did I care? But I was like, damn, he's gonna take April from Raphael. That's not cool.
So I agree with you when Casey Jones first comes into the movie in the first one. I didn't like him early in the movie, but I like him later in the movie. I specifically remember on VHS the part when what's Shredder's henchman? Tatsu?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when he has the fight with him, and Casey Jones whacks him with the golf club, and he goes flying and kisses the golf club. He's like, I'll never call golf a dull game again. When I was a kid, I thought that was like the funniest thing ever. Like, we kept rewinding it and watching it. It's not that funny. Like it's past the line. It's like, like I didn't like him earlier. And I remember it was the first time I'd watched the movie in a while. Probably since I was younger. I was watching it maybe about 10 years or so ago. And there's a scene where I think Casey doesn't want to stay in a car. He doesn't want to do something in an enclosed area. And one of the turtles says, like, oh, you're claustrophobic. And I don't know how, but I heard it as like, oh, don't do the joke. I was like, it's going to be, I don't even know how I realized this is the joke they're going to go for, because I have no recollection of it as a kid. I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. And I was like, oh, he's doing it. He's doing it. He's like, what? He's like, me? He's like, I never even looked at another guy.
Oh, no.
It's like, how did you make the jump from claustrophobic to gay or homosexual? I mean, like
Casey Jones. That's why he sucks.
It's
I agree.
It's not like he said you're homophobic and or like you're claustrophobic. He's like, I have many gay friends, and like was making a phobic joke. It's like, where did that? It's not even. Know. It's not fun. It's not clever. It's not funny. It's just.
No, it's not clever at all.
And like it wasn't 1990 funny either. Like
no.
We had a different tolerance for different kinds of jokes then. And I'm not looking at it from like a 2021 perspective solely. It's just not clever or funny at all. It's like it's not even a play on words. It's just dumb.
No,
so
it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Casey's kind of lame until he redeems himself, and then especially at the end, the whoops when he crushes Shredder in the garbage truck. That was awesome.
That's good. I'll give him that one.
Yeah, he kind of redeemed himself there.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Duff? You have a favorite part of or I guess movie or cartoon, like Steve said? Any favorite memory?
I don't know. That memory of Shredder when he's like all juiced up and knocking down the posts, and he ends up, basically taking care of himself there. That I don't know. That always like, yeah, there you go. That always like stuck with me as like, one of those moments where I was like, whoa, like I don't know, Shredder scared me back then, and then just kind of took care of himself. But that kind of always stuck out, and obviously, Ninja Rap. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
sitting there, watching that movie with my parents while Vanilla Ice is playing. I mean, that's
the
not
Super
awkward at
Shredder.
all.
He comes up through the docks, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
pretty badass.
that's a great scene.
And that's simultaneously the coolest and lamest part of the movie. It's so cool because he bursts through the dock and then destroys himself because he's destroying the dock.
Exactly.
It's almost like they front loaded the movie too much because they should have had a battle with Super Shredder.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah,
Yeah.
we're low on time. How does he die? Well, he burst.
What was the budget at that point? They might have run out of money.
Yeah.
But he gets crushed by the very dock that he burst through to begin with. Oh, sweet irony.
And kind of like looking back at it, the sound of Shredder back then kind of slightly mirrors Mr. Freeze, Arnold Schwarzenegger from Batman.
All right, everyone.
Like
Chill.
that voice box thing that they have or whatever. I don't know. It's somewhat similar, but I don't know.
And the Shredder in the movies, at least the first, I don't think he's in the third one, but definitely the first one is much more intimidating than the one in the cartoon, because the one in the cartoon is just totally
it's kind of goofy too.
It's so funny because all the villains are completely inept for the most part in the cartoon. Shredder, but then when it comes time to fight, he kicks the turtles' asses whenever they're on their own. But like once they're together, he beats them up.
Did you know? So I was watching that Angry Video Game Nerd. Like he had a video on YouTube of the cartoon, like 10-20 minutes, just talking about different parts of it. It's pretty cool. But the Shredder's mask, I've always assumed that the part that's covering his mouth is metal, but apparently in the cartoon, there's scenes where he it's like a fabric or something. He pulls it or crunkles. I never knew that.
Maybe he's cold. It's a gator. It's like that thing you.
I never would they have COVID that back then too, or
yes, early COVID signs.
One other random memory about the movies. My favorite part of the first movie is when April's talking to the police commissioner, and he just gets irate out of nowhere. Not the police, the Chief Stearns.
Yeah, that guy's great. That's a
something
great
I've watched on repeat. I think I've even sent to you. Like,
yeah,
she's questioning him, and he just looks at her pissed off. Are you trying to tell me how to do my job?
Are you guys disappointed that Krang never made an appearance in the movies? I feel like that's a little bit was a letdown. I think for me, maybe too.
I don't know. I mean, yes and no, but I don't know. I mean, looking back at it now, maybe I'm happy that he wasn't in it, because that might have looked really crappy, or
might not have looked good.
Or his character could have been really terrible and made the movies worse. Kind of like Jar Jar Binks, but no, I don't know. But again, at the same time, maybe he could have enhanced it a little bit, but I don't know. Like, I'm thinking back to the cartoons. Yeah, Krang is part of it, but that's not like my focal point. I'm thinking of Shredder and I don't know, Bebop, Rocksteady is like the villains and whatever. But
right,
they could have made Krang work if they darkened him up. Like they made the first movie darker. I don't.
How would they have done that though with a brain?
Well, by making. It would be one of those
like artificial intelligence or something, or I don't know.
Just less is more. You don't have him in the body because Krang doesn't start out in the body in the cartoon.
Well, the modifications weren't finished yet, anyway.
Soccer, you fool! Well, yeah, like show him on a screen. Like show as little of him in person as possible. Don't put him in the body, because if you build a body, it's going to look outrageous. Yeah. And the only other way would be. And they didn't really have the technology then, get, someone like a wrestler, like if you had, but Krang is supposed to be so tall. You would need someone, like 7 feet tall.
The great Khali.
There you go.
Would have been perfect. And put Krang
in. Nice.
I mean, it would have been cool to see him in the movie, but they probably made the right move omitting him. Maybe in the second one, but I wouldn't touch the first one. The first one is done right as far as what was included, what wasn't. The second one is where they could have expanded more, and they just went in a weird direction.
What was the secret of the ooze? Will we ever know? Like, obviously we know it turned them in, but that wasn't really a secret. Is there something else that we never learned?
I think it's they find the company that made it, the TCM.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the direction they were going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that scientist who's dealing, like they befriend or whatever.
Yeah.
Was he the one who worked on it? Because I haven't seen the movie in a bit. So
It's been a while.
I think he was working for the company.
I don't think it's that the ooze has a secret. I think it's that they find out more info about the ooze. So that's
Where it came from. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles merchandise machine, because it became so much more than just the cartoon and the movie, and what started off as a humble comic book that was hand drawn. We already talked a little bit about toys, but I mean, toys were everywhere. Like every kid wanted every figure that they could get their hands on.
Yep.
Video games, arcade games, food, TV commercials, a live action show, musical,
A concert.
I don't know if you guys went to go see that, but
I didn't. I had the VHS of it though.
I did not, unfortunately.
I went to see the Coming Out of Their Shells tour in Radio City
Nice.
sometime in 1990. The cassette was maybe the first album I ever owned that was mine.
Nice.
I didn't buy it with my own money because I was out of work at the time. My first album was either Coming Out of Their Shells, Step by Step by New Kids on the Block, or Hannah Couldn't Hurt 'Em.
Classics.
I might still have the cassette somewhere. But yeah, I definitely went to go see that show, and at the time it was the greatest thing ever. If I watched it now, I know I listened to some of the music, I was like, "Whoa, this is bad." Pretty corny. But yeah, the toys. So I mean, we opened up talking about the video game, and we said we'd get into it more later. So let's talk a little bit about the video games, because they're definitely checkered, but great for different reasons.
Right.
Scales, what's your favorite of the games that they released? So talk about some of the ones that you liked.
Yeah. So looking back as a kid, my all-time favorite is Turtles in Time, the arcade game. I have very fond memories of Joe and I both grew up in Connecticut, New Haven County area, Fairfield County area.
Fairfield County.
Yeah, Fairfield County, New Haven County for me. We both have fond memories of going to Milford Amusement Center as kids, which is a huge arcade. And I used to drop so many quarters on Turtles in Time. The graphics were so cool. It had all the characters, great boss fights. I just can't. I know that it was on Super Nintendo. I didn't own a Super Nintendo as a kid. I had a Sega, which Hyperstone Heist was kind of a variant of Turtles in Time. It had a lot of similarities, but they tried to make it a little different. And I did own that. But the arcade game for me was like the pinnacle. Just such fond memories of that as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, the arcade games were great. And I don't think I ever played Turtles in Time in the arcade. I definitely played the original arcade game a fair amount. And our mutual friend, Mike, and I went and played at an arcade in Morristown in New Jersey, where you don't have to pay one quarter at a time. You just pay for whatever amount of time you're in the arcade. So you have unlimited credits. And some games are hard just because they're really hard. The tasks that you have to do, the enemies you have to fight are ridiculously hard. What I discovered about the Ninja Turtles arcade game is not that it's hard because of what you have to accomplish. It's just that those games are made to suck as much money out of you as possible. It's not hard to kill the enemies. It's not hard to get through the game, but it's like you get hit once and your power bar goes from here to here, and then you're dead in like 2 or 3 hits, so that you keep coughing up quarters.
Yep.
You got to find more of those pizzas along the way to replenish your health.
Oh yeah, of course.
Pizza time.
But the game is great. And I remember playing it as a kid a lot. we had one arcade that I used to go to in Brooklyn, but I don't remember going at that age, and I don't remember ever seeing the Turtles game there. But I remember we had a house in Pennsylvania when I was growing up, and there was a restaurant there. I still remember what it was called, was the Flying Dutchman. And I used to ask my mom if we could go there for two reasons. Not because I liked German food or whatever it was that they served, but I knew they had vanilla ice cream that I liked. I would always go and look at the menu and not know what I wanted for dinner, but definitely get vanilla ice cream. But more importantly, they had the Ninja Turtles arcade game in like a little arcade right next door. And I remember I always want to be Donatello because Donatello was usually the best in these games, and you know, he had bonus reach and strong attack. I remember one time someone was already playing as Donatello, and I didn't want to wait to play, so I think I played as Michelangelo, and I was surprised at how much I liked like how good he was, because I thought it'd be lame with the nunchucks. I think he was gonna have a reach, but if you do the jump and attack together, where you do
the back thing that he does.
Pretty much the same reach as Donatello. I was like, okay, I could work with this. I might pick him in the future. So a rare moment of respect for Michelangelo for me.
That was the original, or that wasn't Turtles in Time you're talking about, or the other?
The first arcade game.
The first one, yeah.
I know I've only played Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo. I've never played it in the arcade.
At the arcade. The first arcade game, always just remember that big cannonball coming down the stairs in the first episode.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Duff, what was your video game memories of Turtles?
Well, you can kind of see behind me.
Yep.
Turtles 2, they're the arcade game first or whatever. When it was released, it was released as Turtles 2. But very fond memories of this one. Going to the arcade, there was probably remember this place called Duchess Restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
There was one right down the street, so we'd go there sometimes, and then a lot of these places all had like an arcade game inside of it. Would bring quarters there, and I remember this game was there one time, and it was just one of those moments where I just made sure I got a lot of the quarters from the couch cushions, from my dad and my mom that would leave them randomly in there. Grabbing those and going down there. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like it was just the thing. It's like you're wondering where all these quarters came from, but going down there and just like putting the quarters in and just playing this game until like my food was cold, basically. And then like you were saying there, Steve, where it was like going to Milford Amusement Center and playing this there, and basically buying this, playing this there, and then like getting actually introduced to this game first, and then actually introduced to Ninja Turtles, the first game, after this one, which it's a whole other story within itself. Yeah. And I just remember, my first thoughts of that one, I'm like, this is the Ninja Turtles? What?
Yeah, we'll let Cass handle that one.
Yeah, I thought I would kind of hand it off to him.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I played that first Ninja Turtles game on Nintendo first. I mean, I played the arcade game, but I definitely played the NES ones far more, and I played them earlier. So went to the video store and wanted to rent a Nintendo game, and I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And from the very beginning, it was like, what's this cover art? What is this? Why are all their bandanas red?
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't right. Meanwhile, come to find out later, that's how they were in the comics. It was all the same color.
Yep.
The cartoon was introduced. So I was like, okay, it's Turtles. How bad could it be? I remember bringing it home, putting it in. I was like, what are these enemies? Like I've never seen. What's this fire guy and these things with one eye that are floating around? Like what?
Yeah, things like flying around and doing weird things. I don't know.
The only recognizable thing were Mousers that I could think of, and then some of the bosses. Like, there's Rocksteady and there's Bebop. Okay, it's like, I guess this is Turtle stuff, but everything else is just so bizarre, and it was just so hard. And I got
very hard.
I got nowhere, and I, like a lot of kids, I got up to the dam, and it's like, oh, this is the hardest level in any game ever. I'm never going to beat it. And then once you play the game more, you come to find out it's not even the hardest level in that game. It's really not that hard. So going back to what I talked about at the top of the show, wanting to beat that game our senior year, I played it like crazy. I'd play it sober. I'd play it after we went out to a party or whatever, played it like class third, and good level of success either way. And Joe, I mean, same for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like we both play the game a lot. But I remember, so I finally started getting up to the last levels, the Technodrome, and it's outrageously difficult. And there's this hallway at the end where these like flying soldiers that are extremely hard to kill and do a ton of damage. And I got up to this last hallway. It was like a Sunday or whatever. I had class the next morning early. And I got up to the last hallway. I had all my weapons, like everything that I needed to do was in place. And I took damage and then got killed. And I was thrown into such a rage. I got so, yeah, I got so mad that I felt like my blood pressure went to like an unacceptable medical level. Like I felt like I had a mini stroke or something. Not even kidding. I felt off, and I went to sleep. I had trouble falling asleep. Went to class the next day, and was sitting in class. And I had a professor. It was like the fourth class I had taken with him because he was a good teacher, and I took whatever courses he had to offer. So he knew me, and he's looking at me part of the way through class. He's like, you doing okay, Steve? Are you getting enough sleep? Right? And I was like, oh, I didn't sleep enough last night. I couldn't very well say in front of my entire class, I was playing a video game last night.
A Nintendo game nonetheless too.
Yeah. But yeah, I had an unhealthy obsession and level of anger when I wasn't doing well in the game. But what upset me even more was the next time I played the game, I finally got past that hallway and found out that that's like the very last part of the game. If I made it through that hallway, there's one brief fight and then it's Shredder, and Shredder's really easy, and I've never lost to Shredder. But I can happily say I beat the game twice. I got it once since 2007. And then Duff beat it.
Only because you kept reminding me to play Turtles every 5 minutes too. So
go play Turtles.
Play Turtles. Oh, hey, good morning. What's going on? Play Turtles.
Yeah, no, you play Turtles.
Trying to study. No, play Turtles.
Guys, I don't know if you remember, but you and I beat the arcade game freshman year because I remember I had the Nintendo I brought over to your room, and you and I beat it.
I don't remember that. Did we?
It's funny because I always used to play with my friend Todd at home, and we'd get up to the last level, and the very last board, the Technodrome was pretty hard. The fight with Shredder, he has the retro mutagen ray that turns you back into a turtle. You lose your life immediately. We tried so many times and just couldn't beat it, before high school ended. And then you and I beat it in college. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell Todd I beat the game, but not with
And we did that on the actual old school Nintendo system. None of this emulator crap that kids are used to these days.
No save states. Going back, this was if you had to stop playing for a little bit, you paused it, you shut your TV, and you hoped that the game still worked when you came back.
Oh, exactly. Terrifying. What a terrible feeling that was.
But when you're playing and all of a sudden your screen starts glitching up, it's like, don't do it. Do not do it. When you hear the music, it's like,
throwing a controller on the ground.
I think we've all done that. Yeah. And then, some choice words usually pop out at some point too. So kind of what I've been known for over the years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What about a random toy? Favorite random Ninja Turtles toy?
So I had at one point they came out with like sports versions of the Turtles, and I had to go look it up online because I didn't remember the actual name of it, but it was a baseball figure of Raphael, and it was called Grand Slam and Raph. I remember loving that. He had like a baseball jersey and he had a bat. And it had the helmet. I love that one.
Because they were just putting out anything back then because kids were, whatever they made, kids bought.
Yep.
Parents bought for the kids. And I'm sure it was, I can't even imagine I don't know what the price was then, but what that translates into money now is probably like $30, $40.
It probably wasn't cheap. And the pizza shooter was the other one for me.
Pizza shooter, yeah.
Yeah. It was a vehicle and it came with 20 little plastic pizza discs, and you load them in this bad boy and you press the button and it would shoot them out. It was awesome.
Yeah. And it stood up on the table. I think Raphael was in it or whoever's in it. But if you sit on the table, you picked it up like
hell yeah.
Around the house.
But it clearly said not to do on the box.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The pizzas would go all over the place. Like, I have to go pick them up now.
Yeah.
Find them. Hope that you didn't lose any of them.
It's so true.
What about you, Duff?
Very distinct memory. I mean, it's nothing like, random or like odd, but I still remember one Christmas, the sewer set, the little sewer play set,
Nice.
and the Technodrome, speaking of, for our name. Getting that one Christmas was just like probably the best thing ever. I was like, man, I've been a really good boy this year. But
Santa
yeah, it
treated
was,
you well.
yeah, just those things were awesome. I mean, I feel like there were pieces missing in some of them, but I feel like you usually get those things and there's always like one or two pieces missing. I'm like, where the hell
Yeah.
are these things?
Yeah.
And then there was, I don't know, I always just remember it, like thinking back at it now, it's like I remember them being like massive, and then now I'm seeing pictures of it. I'm like, these things were so tiny, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Those are my memories, at least.
Yeah. The most random one I remember, other than Fugitoid that I mentioned earlier, was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Subterranean Sewer Hockey. It was one of those tabletop hockey games, kind of like foosball, like where you can move your player around. You have to
Was
control.
that like that cartoon for Crossfire? Remember that, where the kids are like drenched in sweat and playing each other?
Yeah. I remember the commercials for the Subterranean Sewer Hockey because they crammed that title into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme. It was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Subterranean Sewer Hockey. But yeah, that was one of those I got.
Someone missed the boat on that one and had to think of something last second. Like,
yeah. I remember getting it for Christmas. It came in an enormous box. Like, it was cool. I feel like I didn't have it for that long because I'm sure it wasn't made that well. They had it for a bit, but it's one of those where it's like, the player didn't move as far as supposed to anymore, and like whatever got bent. But that was cool. That was a totally random one. No discussion among us would be complete without discussing Ninja Turtle pies, which is my personal favorite non-show, non-movie related piece of turtle lore. For those of you who don't remember, Ninja Turtle pies were a baked, like half moon, so kind of like a shell, pastry crust that was food dyed green and filled with vanilla pudding. I think it was
vanilla goodness, basically.
They were so good.
Made by Hostess, so you know it's good.
Yes.
And I looked it up at one point. I think they were only around for like 6 months, so they were around for less than a year.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like 90 or 120 days or something. It was short.
Yeah, and it felt like they were around for a bit, but I remember being.
I have a distinct memory of eating them and being amazed by them, but.
Yep.
Yeah, the green color always looked a little bit unsettling. But yeah, they were so good. I can still taste them.
I highly agree with that.
It's one of those things. Like, I mean, how many times could we possibly have eaten them? And it's 20-something, almost 30 years ago at this point. No, it is 30 years ago at this point. 30
years.
31 years ago.
Yep.
I can still taste it.
Oh, yeah.
How about you, Duff?
Big mistake. Big. Discontinue these things. But
I just have a distinct memory of eating those things. And I don't know, they were, I just remember them being really good. It's like those, if you took like one of those vanilla pudding cups, like those, who makes those things again? Snack packs, yeah. Like taking one of those and like putting it in like one of those little flaky, doughy things that Hostess makes, and it's like match made in heaven right there. And then you put turtles on it. Perfect.
Even better. Can I talk about a few of the other food items that I remember? Because there's a couple that, like, just thinking about them, my memory, like I can almost remember the taste. Like, I don't know, it might sound weird, but like
I remember the taste of the turtle pies. Just thinking of those.
The turtle pie, yeah. See, the turtle pie is not distinct for me to remember the taste, but the cereal, which had like the sugary like rice checks with the marshmallows, like I can taste that still in my head somehow. Those were super good. There was Turtles cookies. To me, they're kind of similar to like a Teddy Graham. They had like a bunch of different flavors, but I remember the chocolate chip ones the best. And they came in like a couple different packages, but the one that I remember having as a kid came in like this big green plastic turtle. And once the cookies emptied out of it, it doubled as a coin bank, a piggy bank. So I used to use that as my piggy bank as a kid. So I remember having fond memories of that. The Farley's fruit snacks, they probably tasted like crap, but to me, I feel like they tasted good as a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember the package, like they didn't exactly look like the cartoon turtles in my background. They were like a little bit off for some reason. They weren't like exact print of that,
But let's be real. I mean, as kids, if they gave us, chocolate covered dog turds and said they were turtles, we'd be like, these are the most amazing things ever. I still remember they taste great.
We were all over it. And then the last thing is and I didn't remember this until I started looking up some of these classic foods, were the juice boxes. And I remember them now thinking about and seeing that video because they had cool scenes. Like, remember they were from the show where they came up with these scenes, like action fights and different on each cooler. And it was so cool. And I wrote down the flavors were all different. So they had Leonardo's citrus cooler, Raphael's Primo Punch, Michelangelo's outrageous orange, and Donatello's rad grape. So each one had of course, the color of the turtle with the flavor. So
I totally forgot about those.
you remember them now? If you go look at the picture, you'll remember them. I'm telling you, because I didn't until I saw them. And I was like, oh my god, I remember them.
Once you said that they all had their own flavors.
Yeah.
Wow, I totally forgot about that.
Yep. And do you remember at the cash register at grocery stores and stuff, there was Turtles gummies, but they were like big. They were probably like this big, and they were individually wrapped, and they were like the gummies that are like super slimy. Like probably you could swallow the thing whole. It was so like slimy. Do you remember those?
No.
I used to love
remember
those
that one. No.
You might remember it if you see the picture, but there was so many.
Too appetizing.
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah,
they were gummies.
Slimy things that you just stick down your throat.
Probably had some mutagen in it. It's all good.
Look. My last random memory of Turtles is the anti-drug commercial.
Oh, yes.
Not the anti-drug cartoon with all the cartoon characters, but I mean,
yeah, that was classic too.
If you're our age, when someone's talking about when they say, "I'm not a chicken, you're a turkey." Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what. Yeah, we wanted to grow up to be offered drugs just so we could say that to somebody.
And it's worked every time.
And of course, Michelangelo going Michelangelo. He has to make a stupid pizza joke in the commercial.
Yeah.
Joey's in the jam. What should he do? Get a teacher. Excellent. Get a pizza. Get real.
Do you have something related to Pizza Hut? Some kind of memory?
I certainly do. So, meant to bring this up during our video games discussion, but I still have the booklet from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 arcade game, which came with
memories.
A coupon to Pizza Hut.
That's still good?
Well, I don't know if you can see this, but no, you can't.
Oh,
this expired in December 31st, 1991.
Damn it.
We're 30 years late on this, fellas.
We go get the lantern from the third movie. We can travel back in time and go eat it.
I know, but then a few random Japanese guys from ancient Japan will come and do this show for us, and I for the quality control. I don't know. But yes, sorry, Pizza Hut was gonna be on me. I would have met up and we all could have split our personal pan pizza, but it's not free, so
next time.
That's nostalgic in its own right there.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I remember getting this, and I used to love Pizza Hut as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a treat.
I didn't think of it, and again, I grew up in Brooklyn. Pizza's everywhere. Like New York, especially Brooklyn, is known for having great pizza. So Pizza Hut, Domino's, that thing is kind of frowned upon. But Pizza Hut, when we were younger, wasn't just the fast food pizza. Like they had all those sit-down restaurants.
Yep.
So I remember going to those. So it was like, oh, we're gonna go to Pizza Hut and get something with a bunch of toppings, and it was just different. I remember I always wanted to use that coupon. And we just never did. I don't know. And then I remember looking one day, I was like, oh, it's expired. A year after I got it. But then I was like, you know what? I think as a kid, I was like, I'm going to keep this because it's going to be worth money someday.
There you go.
Not worth anything.
It's a memory.
Yeah. 7-year-old me or 6-year-old me was like, I'm keeping this because one day I'm going to show it on a podcast on YouTube. And people are like, you'll find out.
Oh.
Classic. Yeah. All right, fellas. Well, it's been fun taking our little trip here. I think it's time to sign off and say goodbye to the folks. We had fun doing this. Looking forward to do it again. So I want to thank you for joining us on this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed our show, please drop a comment, give us a like, and subscribe to our channel to keep up with our new content as soon as it's released. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at Throwbacks Technodrome Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And feel free to submit questions, comments, and topics for future episodes to throwbackswiththetechnodrome@gmail.com. That's it for today. And remember, wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. See you back soon.